Hello. The UK has really, really bad staff retention problems. A lot of industries have very, very high staff turnover, and I think it's something that we're really bad at, particularly in the public services too. That most of the public services have very, very high staff turnover. What worries me, nobody's really talking about it, and nobody seems to care about it. So do write in with your views. But I think it's such a waste to train somebody and then to lose them. So, for example, you invest in training a teacher, and they start doing their course, and it costs money to train them, and then they join a school and so on, and then they leave after a year or so, and then you get somebody new coming in. And I think experienced staff are of value to an organisation or an industry, and to lose them is very costly. It costs money to recruit and train people, but that experience, it's hard to quantify, but they help run an organisation. Staff often contribute a lot to make sure that things are working well, experienced staff, and they help recruit, and they help in all sorts of ways. And I think it's such an expensive loss to lose staff. So why is it happening? And why is it happening in the UK? Is it that we got our values wrong? I think perhaps, yes. Now, years ago, I did a study into staff turnover for an organisation. And what I found in that particular organisation was a lot of people were leaving very, very early on within weeks of being employed for that particular company. And that was shocking, actually. But what it showed was they were possibly recruiting the wrong people, and their recruitment process was all wrong. But also it kind of showed that they had a very poor induction scheme. And what they did as a result of my following my study was they brought in a really good induction scheme and looked at their management style to improve this issue. I mean, how great that they did manage to sort it, and how brilliant that they did do it. But I just get the impression that nowadays people just don't really care about this issue anymore. And that fundamentally is really worrying. So I think this issue really, for me, reflects on poor management, poor values in an organisation. Sometimes there's a really toxic atmosphere in an organisation, and that really, if you've got backstabbing going on and all that sort of thing, it's so stressful, and that's enough to make people want to leave. A lot of people say, oh, it's all to do with pay. It might be, but in many cases, I think it's to do with workload issues and stress and work-life balance. And some people say, you know what, this job's getting just too much for me. I'd rather take a pay cut and do something less stressful, and then spend a bit more time with my family. It isn't always about money. So for me, what happened, for example, I used to work in the probation service. I joined the probation service because I like to engage with people, to motivate them to go in a positive direction. And lo and behold, years later, the computers arrived, and I found myself spending most of the day interfacing with a computer and doing assessments, which is what the organisation wanted me to do. But I didn't join the organisation to do that. And it was quite understandable that I got quite fed up of that, spending all day doing assessments that were very long and not actually doing what I wanted to do, was to motivate offenders to stop offending and to go in a positive direction. Understandable, yes. So I think as well, organisations very often are too top down, and there's not enough consultation with staff. Staff need to feel valued, not just the pay, but they need to be consulted with. We need to discuss with them. And I think increasingly in the public sector, for example, years and years ago, they did consult with the staff in the public sector, but now it's more and more top down, more stress, and people get really fed up of being overworked. So it's not just about pay, but do write in with your views on this. I think it is a UK problem. It is happening perhaps throughout the world as well, but unfortunately, I think we're the worst country in Europe for staff turnover issues. So write in, but I wonder about whether our management skills are really up to it as well. I kind of note that a lot of British industries over the years have gone down. We used to have a really big motor car industry in this country, but it's all melted away, since the 60s, 70s and 80s and 90s and the noughties. There isn't really much of a British car industry, and we used to be leaders in the world in the car industry. And I kind of think, what's it about? And I think a lot of it is about to do with the management very high up and their culture and how it filters down into the organisation. And often, small is beautiful, small little firms, where there's a good team ethos, honesty and good communication throughout the company, you'll find that they'll have good staff retention there. So it's not necessarily about pay, it's, I feel, a lot to do with culture. But do write in with your views. Do let me know if you agree with me, but I think this is a massive issue that actually is very, very costly to the UK and to British companies, but it's been swept under the carpet, this issue, and it's something really that management need to look at and to sort out, because it's very, very expensive and costly and bad for morale within a company to keep losing staff and then to have new staff come in who don't really know what they're doing. Okay, all the best, have a really good day, and let's see if we can sort this problem. All the best now, bye-bye.